Okay, let's start the class. So, we were discussing the topic transport in plants, and in the first class what we have said is we have talked the introductory part of transport, and when we are talking about transport we have already discussed what are the things that are transported inside the plant body, right. As far as transport is concerned, we have talked about two processes, that is the short distance transport and the long distance transport. Short distance transport keneke hoy by three physical process, and what were the three physical process, that is diffusion, osmosis and water potential gradient, right. And as far as long distance transport okoman likhisilu je whenever we are talking about long distance, we know that substances move in a bulk flow or in a mass flow. We use the word that is called as translocation. It could be unidirectional or bidirectional, and unidirectional keys are, bidirectional keys are, we have already discussed, right. Next we have talked about certain things called as permeability and imbibition, right. Kihini post important we have already discussed. Aru we have completed the first physical process, that is diffusion. We were talking about osmosis. Osmosis I just start korisilu. Osmosis ki koiso, as far as the definition is concerned, what we remember, it is the movement of molecules or ions from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable membrane word to monot rakhibo laibo. Next is what happens in osmosis. Since we are talking about only the movement of liquid molecules, so we will be using two words, that is called as the solvent and the solution. So we have already discussed the solvent solution will a solution solvent will during the process of osmosis. So I think you remember kuntu zai solvent solution, the solution solvent will. It is always the solvent that goes to the solution, right. And today what we will be discussing is osmosis continue korim, types of osmosis heading koriba. Talking about types of osmosis, we know that it's of key types, two types, endo-osmosis or exo-osmosis. No, ekhini bostu common e hoy. Definition lagibo niki? Endo-osmosis, exo-osmosis, definition to nalage, we understand. I think this is more than enough. Endo-osmosis, exo-osmosis, ki hobo? The cell will take in the liquid or the water and then it will swell up. This is called as endo-osmosis. Examples, dry raisins immersed in water. Kismis pani thodile ki hobo, hi phuli jabo. And if you are talking about exo-osmosis, obviously the contents will come out because of the concentration. Fresh grapes immersed in concentrated salt solution. Etia ki hobo? Fresh grapes will shrink, right? And this dry raisins will swell up. Since we are talking about types of osmosis, next we have to talk about types of solution. Is the endo-osmosis whole by exo-osmosis whole? It depends on what? Cell to a endo-osmosis hobo, ne cell to exo-osmosis hobo, kihor upor depend koribo. It will depend on the solution that the cell is put into, right? So types of solutions poribo leibo. I think you have read about all this: hypertonic, hypotonic and isotonic solution. Right? Again, hypertonic solution or definition lagibo niki. What is a hypertonic solution? A solution whose concentration is more than the cell sap is called as hypertonic. No, eta cell ase, eta solution or ase. ठीक है? A solution to eta concentration ase, यार cell sap or eta concentration ase. A concentration to जरी याद के बेसी होय, तेरे A solution to कमी की बोली कम. Hyper, इन्हें hyper माने की something that's more. Right? More than what? More than the concentration of the cell sap. If this is high concentrated, then obviously this would be called as low concentrated. তেতিয়াহলে কি হ'ব? ওলাই আহিব?
Exosmosis চলে cell এটা dead হওয়ার সম্ভাবনা আছে।
Oh, continuous exosmosis হয়ে থাকলে তো cell dead হয়ে যাব। Generally we use the word plasmolysis for that, কিন্তু exosmosis হলে continuous হলে হি মৰি যাব। কারণ shrink কৰি কৰি একেবাৰে হেৰি হৈ যাব না। Example কি হ'ব hypertonic solution or এই দুটাৰ ভিতৰত exosmosis. So আকৌ কি হ'ব fresh grapes no হ্যাঁ salt solute বস্তুটো বেছি আছে Definition lage jodi kwa definition if you want it I'll write it down if you are understanding there's no point of writing it down kanu
cell bahir tamen water poriman beshi hypertonic
solute beshi hobo etu ami jimane concentration word use kori aso no jeneke low concentration to high concentration to low concentration ki hor solutes hor right so hypertonic jodi hobo lage tetiale yateu tar cell shape ase nai etu jodi cell hoy ekini bilak ki bhitor inside of a cell would always be called as a cell sap ekdom precise meaning is something different no inside of a vacuole as of now inside of a cell ami ki boi koise cell sap when we are talking about the cell sap it is not only the liquid that is present obviously solutes are also present right aru a cell to enuka eta solution of thoisa jot niki solutes ase liquid ase jodi solute concentration besi hoy tetale iar pra yale ulai ahibo nahi I think you remember in this chapter what we need to remember is movement kopra kole hoy hodai solute jot besi hoy tale movement hoy right so this would be the example of hypertonic second hypotonic or example ki hobo etu right likhilwa pura bhalke definition diya nai can't we understand right together with hypertonic and hypotonic enuka eta solution ase when the cell is put in that solution the volume does not change no that is called as the isotonic and what would be the proper definition of isotonic when the concentration of the cell sap is equal to the outside concentration of the solution that is called as the isotonic if a cell is placed in an isotonic solution no change in weight or volume would be observed no just to give you an idea যে এটার উপর কোয়েশ্চনটো কেনেকে আহিছে এনেকে আহিছে right understood so answer কি হ'ব এই হ'ব this is over okay next the concept of reverse osmosis are teneke question aha nai kintu one word that you have to remember is the word hyperfiltration because the process that we use for filtering of water is reverse osmosis and I think you have noticed also no aquaguard when the salesmen come to your house what they say is this has something called as RO right what is RO is nothing but reverse osmosis what is reverse osmosis something that's opposite to osmosis is called as reverse osmosis so yate ki hoise if you are talking about two chambers A and B and if this is a semi permeable membrane tetihole obviously solvent to kole jabo solution le jabo right so A to B is called as normal osmosis but just the opposite if you want to do some process then that would be called as a reverse osmosis so reverse osmosis ki hobo B to A jabo liquid khini no now the point is if something has to go in a opposite direction kiba ta extra lagibo right so what you need extra is a pressure in the solution chamber right a pressure tur karone ki hobo ultimately ইয়াতে যেটা প্রেসার দিব গুটেইখিনি বস্তু ইয়াতে প্রেসার দিব নিদিয়া রাইট ইয়াতে প্রেসার দিলে এই মুভমেন্টটো বন্ধ হৈ যাব না যায় রাইট ইটস অলমোস্ট লাইক ইফ সাপোজ ঘৰৰ ভিতৰত যদি পানী সোমাই কেতিয়াবা হা দরজাখনৰ ফাকেৰে যদি পানী সোমাই আমি কি কৰো এখন বস্তা বা কিবা এটা দি দিও just to stop the flow of water inside your house suppose it's coming from a door or something what we do we put some clothes over there or maybe we put a barrier right what does the barrier do prevent the water from entering similarly yate ki hobo when the pressure would be given here this would act as a barrier and ultimately it will stop the movement of the solvent to the solution chamber why we have to do this so that the solvent chamber does not become empty totally jedi normal osmosis hoy thake eta time ot ki hobo ei chamber to khali hoy jabo no karon everything will go there no aru cell eta ketiao khali hoy jabo noare it cannot be empty right so it has to have the contents so we need to apply a pressure on the solution chamber right that is also called as reverse osmosis and this is the exact phenomenon that we are going to talk about osmotic pressure right osmotic pressure osmotic pressure is exactly the same as reverse osmosis right so osmotic pressure by reverse osmosis ki ho karone diu as of now we are talking about reverse osmosis at ki hobo the solution, I mean the liquid molecules will move from B to A by application of a pressure, right? Yate actually aru eta bostu ki je yate je pressure to disu, if you are talking or if you are comparing it with filtration, what exactly happens in filtration? Filtration process ot ami ki koru? What do? You filter the water, you make the water pure, right? So we have taken a sample of water. This is not pure. Kyo pure boli consider kornai karon tat bahut dhoroner dirt particles ba solutes ase. So you want to remove the water molecules and you want to separate the water molecules and the solute particles, right? So you give a pressure, a water molecules bilak ki hobo yale gusi jabo and solutes bor kot thakibo yate thakibo. So as a result what we are doing is we are purifying the water. Iman details nalage, just remember the concept, and this is also something that's related with hyperfiltration. Hipinole goes there, and water molecules can push kori diye, right? So it will require a pressure, right? And a pressure pump or at a pressure lagibo, tetiahe reverse osmosis hobo. If you are not going to apply a outward pressure, reverse osmosis process will not take place, right? Sagoror pra actually nimok to we etu processor through ulabo pari, kintu that is something that is more into evaporation process. Evaporation or through he basically ulai. Is it over? Next likha osmotic pressure. Right? We have something called as osmotic pressure. What is osmotic pressure? It is the pressure on the solution chamber to prevent the entry of solvent into it. Is the definition clear? What is osmotic pressure? The pressure that is applied to the solution chamber to prevent the entry of solvent into it is called as osmotic pressure. So obviously we are talking about the outward pressure. Next is whenever we are talking about a pressure means we are pushing something, no? This pressure actually ami koi aso no, pressure on the solution kintu solution ot ki thake, water molecules o thake, solutes o thake. You have to know, since we are talking about a pressure, exactly where we are applying the pressure is something, the pressure is dependent on ki the solute that is present in the solution, right? So yate pressure kiman lagibo depends on the solute that is present, right? If the solute is more, OP is more. So we will have a relation that is OP is directly proportional to the concentration of the solution, right? So yate solute jedi besi, pressure besi, solute jedi kom, pressure kom, right? Another point is wherever we are talking about solvent, no, the common type of solvent or pure solvent buli kole, we always consider the water molecule. So water molecule moi jodi hudu what is the osmotic pressure of solvent, tetiale ki buli koba? 0, right? Kiho karne karon pure solvent, no, pure solvent to koa loge loge that pure kiho karne koisu, because we just take it for granted that there are solutes that is totally absent. In totally absent to hoboi nware okkoman hole to thakiboi, kintu tothapi since we are using the word pure solvent, this is solute is equal to 0, so osmotic pressure is equal to 0. Clear? আমি বাকি নোটছখিনি লিখিম এতিয়া So no doubt we are writing the definition and all the stuffs, but whenever you hear about osmotic pressure, the point that you will remember is it is the pressure on the solutes, right? Baki definition ami GA nilikho. Osmotic pressure ki hoy? It is the pressure on the solutes. Solution ase, solution ami pressure disu. Solution liquid ase, solute ase. The pressure is applied to what? The pressure is applied to the solute, right? পাতত কিয় বেছি হয় কাৰণ পাতত ফটোসিনথেসিস হয় ফটোসিনথেসিস ফুড প্ৰিপেয়াৰ কৰে ফুড ইজ ইন দ্য ফৰ্ম অফ সলিউট সো ৰুটছত কি থাকে ৰুটছত নিজৰ কনসেন্ট্ৰেশন থাকে বাট ইট এবজৰ্বস ওয়াটাৰ সো দ্য লিকুইড ইজ মোৰ সো OP ইজ মোৰ কোট ৰুটছত থাকিব কিন্তু পানীৰ লগত থাকিব ন পানীৰ লগত এবজৰ্ব কৰি হিটো গুচি যাব ন কিন্তু লিভছত কি হয় ষ্টৰড হৈ যায় না যায় ফুডটো সো ষ্টৰড হৈ গ'লে সলিউট কনসেন্ট্ৰেশন বেছি হৈ যায় যদি সলিউটস বেছি হয় অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ বেছি হৈ যাব right না 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 এটা সাইডে পিওর ওয়াটার এটা সাইডে সলিউশন কারণ পিওর ওয়াটারত সলিউট নাই পিওর ওয়াটারত সলিউটস নাই পিওৰ হৈ থাকিব লাগিব তোমাৰ দুটা চেম্বাৰ আছে এটাত আছে তোমাৰ সলভেন্ট আৰু এটা আছে সলিউশন যেতিয়া আমি পিওৰ সলভেন্ট বুলি কওঁ what we understand solute is equal to 0 osmotic pressure মানে কি it is nothing but the pressure of the solute সলিউটৰ প্ৰেছাৰটোকে আমি osmotic pressure বুলি কওঁ যদি পিওৰ ওয়াটাৰত সলিউটছে নাই তাৰ প্ৰেছাৰো নাই আমি যে অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ কৈ আছো অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ বাকিবিলাক সব বস্তু পাহৰি পেলাই কি মনত ৰাখিব অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ কি হয় এটা সলিউশনত বা এটা দুটা লিকুইডৰ বা এটা সলিউশনৰ অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ কি হয় তাৰ মানে সলিউশনটোত এটা প্ৰেছাৰ আছে মই যদি কওঁ এটা সলিউশনত অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ আছে তাৰ মানে সলিউশনটোত এটা প্ৰেছাৰ আছে সেই প্ৰেছাৰটো কোনে দিছে সলিউট that is present in the solution pressure of the solute on the solution as a whole ami pressure of the solution koi thoi disu no osmotic pressure ki pressure on the solution to prevent the entry of the solvent right solution ot eta pressure develop korise aru he pressure to ke ami ki boli koiso osmotic pressure he solution or pressure to kihor karone develop korise because of the solute content of the solution আমি প্ৰেছাৰটো চাব লাগিব ন আমি যে এটা প্ৰেছাৰ দিছো সেই বস্তুটোৰ কাৰণে তোমাক কিহত প্ৰেছাৰটো লৈছে সলিউটছে প্ৰেছাৰটো লৈছে সো প্ৰেছাৰটো আমি সদায় সলিউটছৰ ওপৰত দি পেলাইহে মেজাৰ কৰোঁ সলিউশনটোত যিমান সলিউটছ আছে সেই সলিউটছৰ যোনটো প্ৰেছাৰ সেই প্ৰেছাৰটো আমি সেই প্ৰেছাৰটো আছে বুলি কেনেকৈ গম পাম তুমি যেতিয়া প্ৰেছাৰ পাম্প এটা দিবা ন পাম্প দিলেহে তুমি প্ৰেছাৰটো ফিল কৰিব বস্তুটোৱে এটা চেম্বাৰ আছে ইটো চেম্বাৰ আছে ইয়াতে অলৰেডি সলিউটছ আছে সলিউটছৰ তাৰ নিজৰ প্ৰেছাৰ এটা আছে কিন্তু সেইখিনি প্ৰেছাৰৰ কাৰণেতো যাব পৰা নাই ন কাৰণ সলভেন্ট অলৰেডি সলিউটছলৈ আহি আছে you want to stop the movement of solvent so you have to apply a external pressure you have to increase the pressure of the solutes externally apply koribo lagibo jedi apply kora tetiahe hobo nohole nohoy pure water hoi nathakibo no tetia যেতিয়া তুমি সলিউটছৰ লগত ওয়াটাৰটো মিক্স কৰি দিবা তেতিয়াহলে তো আৰু পিওৰ ওয়াটাৰ হৈ নাথাকে তেতিয়াহলে পিওৰ ওয়াটাৰ থাকিব লাগিব ৰাইট যদি সলিউটছৰ লগত মিক্স হৈ আছে তেতিয়াহলে নো লnger will be using the word pure right so কি মনত ৰাখিবা যে whenever we are talking about osmotic pressure হে প্ৰেছাৰ এটা ডেভেলপ কৰে প্ৰেছাৰটো কিহৰ কাৰণে ডেভেলপ কৰে তাৰ সলিউট কন্টেন্টৰ কাৰণে ডেভেলপ কৰে যদি সলিউশনটোত সলিউট বেছি থাকে প্ৰেছাৰটো বেছি হ'ব যদি solute কম থাকে প্ৰেছাৰটো কম হ'ব clear so ultimately it depends on the concentration of the solute in case of leaves as I have said leaves of photosynthesis hoy food prepare hoy food in the form of solute so since solute is more OP is more
liquid na thakile to mane solute ke cycle koribo na jodi liquid er poriman bahut kom hoy jay solute poriman beshi hoy gele to mane wall mane pressure click koribo
নোৱাৰিব কাৰণ তোমাৰ হে কাৰণে তো আমি সলিউট আৰু সলভেন্ট বুলি লিখা নাইতো আমি সলভেন্ট আৰু সলিউশন লিখিছো এটা সাইডে পিওর ওয়াটার এটা সাইডে পিওর সলিউট হেতুটো লিখা নাই এটা সাইডে পিওর সলভেন্ট এটা সাইডে সলিউশন লিখিছো সলিউশন টু এজ দ্য নেম সাজেস্ট তাতো ওয়াটার মলিকুলস থাকিবই ওকে হাইড্রোফাইট তো উই আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড তাত গুটে পানি আছে এখানে সলিউট কম কি আছে মেসোফাইট ইটস জাস্ট এ কম্পারেটিভ স্টাডি জেরোফাইটত কি হয় ওয়াটার অ্যাবজর্পশন কম হয় সেই কাৰণে সলিউট বেছি থাকিব হেলোফাইটত তো আৰু বেছি হ'ব কাৰণ তাহাঁতে যেতিয়া ওয়াটাৰ এবজৰ্ব কৰে ওয়াটাৰতে কি থাকে হেলোফাইটস কি হয় the plants that grows in saline area are called as helophytes so when these plants will absorb the water সেই ওয়াটাৰটোৰ লগত অলৰেডি সল্ট সোমাই যাব না যায় তো কনসেন্ট্ৰেশন বাঢ়ি যাব Next. So, osmotic pressure kihor upor depend kore, it depends on the first factor that we are talking about is it depends on the amount of solute that is present in a solution. If the solute is more, osmotic pressure is more. Apart from that, it also depends on eta solution ot osmotic pressure besi hobo ne kom hobo depends on what? Depends on the solute. This is something that we have already read. Apart from solute, it also depends on ionization of the solute. Ionization mane? Breaking of anything into ions is called as ionization, right? If you are talking about two things, suppose NaCl, NaCl ionization, ionized hoy no hoy? Obviously hoy duta bhangi jabo pare no. So solute khini ki hoy je solute content ba concentration upor depend koribo tar uporio ionized hoy ne no hoy hetur upor depend koribo. Hetu moi eta example dim, he example to poriba, then we'll talk about. Thik ase etu first likhi do ase. Yare example to So example ami ki dekhisu, so we have taken the same content of two things, right? So 1 molar solution of sucrose loiso, NaCl loiso. So concentration wise sucrose siman loiso, NaCl himane loiso, right? So prothomote ami ki koisilu that it depends on the concentration. So if we take two solutions of equal concentration, tetia hole osmotic pressure equal hobo lagisile. Yes or no? So first statement what we are saying is the concentration is something on which the osmotic pressure depends upon. If the concentration is more, osmotic pressure would always be more. But in the second statement what we are taking is, we are taking two solutions of equal concentration. Duta bostu equal concentration, so osmotic pressure equal hobo lagisile, kintu we see that it's not equal. So if you are taking sucrose suppose 10 grams, NaCl suppose 10 grams, concentration ki hobo? Duitare eke hobo, kintu osmotic pressure beleg hobo. If you see here osmotic pressure almost 22 aru yate ki dekhisa na almost double, right? Why double? Because NaCl can be broken down into two solutes. Etu kintu ami break down koribo noaru. Jetia break down koribo noaru, it is considered as one solute. If it can be broken down into ions, it is considered as two solute. If there are two solutes, then obviously solute is more, so OP is more. না 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 কিন্তু এটা এজ আ হোল মলিকুলটো ব্ৰেক কৰি দিব নোৱাৰে ন, আয়ন্স কৰিব নোৱাৰে ন, হয় ন, এটা ফৰ্মৰ পৰা আনটো ফৰ্মলৈ পাৰা। ইজ এ পইণ্ট ক্লিয়াৰ? অঁ দুটা আছে কাৰণে ডাবল হৈ গৈছে, সেইটোৱে। ইটছ জাষ্ট আ ৱে টু শ্ব' ডেট নট অনলি অন দ্য কনচেনট্ৰেশ্যন বাট অন দ্য আয়নাইজেশ্যন প্ৰপাৰ্টি অলছ' অসমোটিক প্ৰেছাৰ ডিপেণ্ডছ আপন। যদি আয়নছলে ব্ৰেকডাউন কৰে সলিউটবিলাকৰ কণ্টেণ্ট বেছি হৈ যাব বুলি কৈছে এণ্ড চ' ইজ দিছ অভাৰ? Osmotic pressure calculation or কোনো ধৰণৰ mathematical calculations has not been asked, ঠিক আছে? So formula to খালি চাবা, maybe the question might be asked upon that. Right? এইবিলাক বুজিবলৈ একো নাই, জাষ্ট এবাৰ পঢ়ি যাবা নোটটো। I'm writing in a very short form. So in brief, the significance of osmosis. We have also talked about the significance of diffusion in our next class. I mean in our previous class, right? So significance of osmosis, normal things are ekini iman hei koribo nalage. Transport, water absorption, turgidity of a cell, opening closing of stomata resistance, movement of plant and plant parts. What we understand by this line? Movement of plant and plant parts. Kisuman plants are movement thake no? Plant movements pohisane tumalke? Okay, have you heard about the Indian telegraph plant? Indian telegraph plant or ki hoy? The leaves, no, it keep on changing the direction according to the light or according to the time of the day, right? Ratipa jodi eneke thake rato eneke thakibo akko eneke thakibo. So this is what is called as the movement of the plant parts. Everything is maintained by osmotic pressure. Again, if you are talking about another plant, touch me not plant asil no, Mimosa pudica. So that phenomenon, no, close se kore, it's also because of osmotic pressure. I think সুই দিলে কি হয় তার ওয়াটার প্রেসার পড়ে নো প্রেসার পড়লে হি ড্রেন আউট হয়ে যায় রাইট পুলভিনাস ওয়ার্ড আমি এটা পড়িছিল মরফোলজিত ওকে so we have completed diffusion, we have completed osmosis. Next physical process to joar agote we have to talk something called as a DPD, right? Diffusion pressure deficit. I think you remember what we have said is in order to see whether the water moves from which cell to another cell, either we can study something called as DPD or we can study something called as water potential gradient. So DPD ki hoy will be studying, but DPD porhar agote tar logot associated duta terms ase, eta hol turgor pressure, eta hol wall pressure. Right? You have to know about two pressures. Actually, turgor pressure is something that's important. Ekhine jodi hol heading korason turgor pressure oblique wall pressure. Sporangia. Mane osmosis might also be a reason for bursting of the fruits. Fruits bilak kisuman fruits ki hobo burst koribo lagibo na lage tetia he seeds bilak ulai jabo. Eta fruitor birat seeds ase. From reproduction point of view, what is important? Seeds. So fruit to burst koribo lagibo. Burst koribo lagile kiba to process hobo lagibo no plant top. So what happens is osmosis is also responsible for bursting of plants. Maybe fruits to solute besi thake he karone pani to besi ke absorb kore, pani to absorb kora lage lage pressure hoy, that will lead to the bursting of the fruit. Na turgor pressure or wall pressure beleg. Turgor pressure and wall pressure likho. TP and WP. So two of the pressure that operates in a cell, it is turgor pressure and wall pressure. What is turgor pressure? What is wall pressure? You are talking about a cell, you are putting it in a liquid but jote thako, the cell will absorb water, right? Ei je water molecules bur yat humale tahate eta outward pressure dibon nidie, right? So this is called as what? TP. First you have to know a meaning called as turgid. Have you heard this word? A turgid cell. Another word could be a flaccid cell, right? Cell could be of three types: turgid cell, flaccid cell, or a plasmolized cell, right? So turgid cell mane ki? A swollen cell is called as a turgid cell. And why is a cell swollen? Because it has enough water. If a cell is turgid, it will no longer absorb any water. Right? So jetialeke pani absorb kori thake tetialeke ami turgid condition complete buli noko. Jedi ami cell tuk turgid buli ko, we understand it has enough water, it will not absorb any more water, right? And this turgid cell becomes turgid kiho karone? Because of turgor pressure. A turgor pressure ketia develop kore? When does a cell develops turgor pressure? When it absorbs water. If it does not absorb water, tetiale tar turgor pressure develop nokore, right? He absorb কৰি ভিতৰলে সোমাব লাগিব ন তেতিয়াহে পানীটোৱে তাক প্ৰেছাৰ এটা দিব so in other way round what we can say what is Tiger pressure it is the pressure of the protoplasm on the cell wall is called as Tiger pressure of the protoplasm on the cell wall is called as Tiger pressure ইয়াৰ ভিতৰত কিবা কিবি সোমালে সেই বস্তুখিনি পানী সোমালে পানী কিহৰ লগত মিল হ'ল protoplasmৰ লগত protoplasmৰ because of that pressure এটা দিব on the cell wall that is called as TP if this continues তেতিয়াহলে কি হ'ব if the cell keeps on taking water and the pressure keeps on exerting তেতিয়াহলে it will burst so that the cell does not burst at an anti pressure লাগিব that is what is called as wall pressure so what is wall pressure the pressure of the cell wall against Tiger pressure is called as wall pressure understood Tiger pressure ki pressure of the protoplasm on the cell wall pressure ki pressure of the cell wall against TP yeah oh eketai ha Just to remember, TP কেতিয়া develop কৰিব only when it starts absorbing water. যদি water absorb নকৰে তেতিয়াহ'লে TP নহয়, right? Next TP is this one, wall pressure, wall, এটো কি হয়? Cell wall. Suppose cell wall or pressure against Tp is called as Wp. Next, certain points to remember, Tp is always less than Op. What you need to remember is, if you are talking about Tp, it is nothing but the pressure of the liquid molecules. If you are talking about Op, it is the pressure of the solute molecules. So, as compared pressure to car basi, solutes or basi, right. So, Tp is always less than Op. Eta cellor bhitorot liquid ase, solute ase, liquid oru pressure eta ase, solutes bilakoru pressure eta ase. So, inside the cell whose pressure will be more, it is always the pressure of the solute that is more as compared to the liquid inside the cell, right. So, that is the reason why we are writing Tp is always less than Op. Now, Tp can never exceed Op. Water pressure to besi ho gole cell to burst kori jabo, right. So, Tp can never exceed Op, but under certain circumstances it can become equal. If it becomes equal, kisuman conditions or karone equal hobo, equal hole ki hobo, the shape would be maintained properly, right. Next is a flaccid cell does not have a Tp. What is a flaccid cell? A dry cell is called as a flaccid cell. Since it is dry, it does not have water, so it does not have Tp. Tp pressure protoplasm boli ami koiso, kintu protoplasm or pressure to kiho karone hol bahiror pra liquid humale karone, so pressure of liquid, kintu definition wise eta cell boli kole pressure of liquid to kobo noaru, cell to bhitor liquid ase hetu to noko, cell to bhitor protoplasm ase boli he kau, so it's the pressure of the protoplasm. না বন্ধ হৈ নাযায়, সেইটো কাৰণে তো পানী কুমা বন্ধ হৈ যাব কেতিয়া, যেতিয়া বেলেন্সত এটা সেলে পানী লৈ আছে মানে কন্টিনিউয়াসলি পানী লৈ থাকিব দিয়ে, থ্ৰু আউট দ্য লাইফ টাইম পানী লৈ থাকিব দিয়ে, এটা সময়তো বন্ধ হ'ব, বন্ধ কেতিয়া হ'ব, যেতিয়া বেলেন্স হৈ যাব, WP, ৰাইট, প্ৰেছাৰটো বেলেন্স হৈ যাব, তেতিয়া আৰু এবজৰ্ব নকৰে ন, বা বেলেন্স কেতিয়া, যেতিয়া ফুল্লি টাৰ্জিড হৈ গ'ল আৰু পানী নলয় আৰু তেতিয়া সেইটো osmotic pressure in case if you want to prevent the entry of solvent. Because normally solvent to obviously cell bhitor humaye thakibo, right? So, if we are sure about the two terms Tp and WP, আমি এটা তিনটা প্রেসার পালো, অসমোটিক প্রেসার, টার্গার প্রেসার আর ওয়াল প্রেসার, রাইট। অসমোটিক প্রেসার কি হয়, প্রেসার অফ দ্য সলিউটস, টার্গার প্রেসার কি হয়, অ্যাকচুয়ালি প্রেসার অফ দ্য লিকুইড। Inside the cell আমি কি কম, pressure of the protoplasm, right, and osmotic pressure we have already discussed. Etia the next thing that we have to talk about is DPD. So heading koriba, if this is over, diffusion pressure deficit boli heading koriba. Tetia hole he shape to maintain hoi thakibo, right, balance of thakibo লাগিব। Right. So, first what is DPD? It is nothing but the suction pressure. What is suction? The amount that you take in, that is what is called as suction, right? Eta cellor suction pressure, pressure to develop korise karone to suck korise, right? So, that is called as suction pressure. Who has given the term? Tar upor question ahe, mayor janibo laibo. DPD is nothing but the water absorption capacity of a cell. Whether a cell will absorb water or not depends on a factor that is called as DPD, right? So, DPD could be calculated by this formula. DPD is equal to eta cell or DPD ami keneke calculate. First, DPD ki hoy? Eta study. DPD study to ami kyo koribo lage, so that we know whether the cell will absorb water or not. How will you calculate DPD of a cell? By a given formula, it's the measurement of the solute and the liquid pressure, right? So, next is water. Ami A line to monot rakhibo laibo as far as DPD is concerned. Duta cell jedi ase movement korpra kole hobo, it is always from lower DPD to a cell with higher DPD. Ako in a lump sum DPD ki hoy? Eta cell e pani lobo. Pani ketia lobo? Jete solutes besi thakibo, right? Pani তোমালকে পানী কেতিয়া খাবা যেতে ভাত খাই আছে ন ভাতৰ লগত ভাত বেছি হুকান ভাত খালে কি হ'ব পানী খাব লাগিব নলে সলিউট বেছি এখানে পানী বেছি ইটস জাস্ট আ ওয়ে টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড তোমালকে জেনেকে মনত ৰাখা ইউ ক্যান ডেভেলপ ইওর ওন ট্রিক্স দ্য পয়েন্ট টু বি রিমেম্বার্ড अगेन এন্ড अगेन উই আর রিপিটিং দ্য সেম লাইন নো সলিউট যদি বেছি ওয়াটার বেছি কে হবাব রাইট
ডিপিডি এটো অনলি সলিউট মানে প্রেসার
এটা সেলৰ ভিতৰত দুটা প্ৰেছাৰ আছে ঠিক আছে অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ আছে টাৰ্গাৰ ওয়াল প্ৰেছাৰো আছে ঠিক আছে অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ আছে টাৰ্গাৰ প্ৰেছাৰ আছে ওয়াল প্ৰেছাৰো আছে কিন্তু ওয়াটাৰ এবজৰ্পচন ফ্যাক্টৰটো কিহৰ ওপৰত ডিপেন্ড কৰে সেই সল্টত সলিউটছ আৰু লিকুইডৰ কন্টেন্ট কিমান আছে এটা সেলৰ ভিতৰত সলিউটো আছে লিকুইডো আছে অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰো আছে টাৰ্গাৰ অসমটিক প্ৰেছাৰ কিহৰ কাৰণে হয় সলিউটৰ কাৰণে সেলৰ ভিতৰত কি থাকে সলিউশন থাকে সলিউশন মানে কি সলিউট প্লাস ওয়াটার সো ওয়াটার যদি আছে ওয়াটাৰৰ প্ৰেছাৰ আছে সলিউট যদি আছে সলিউটৰ প্ৰেছাৰ আছে তো সেলটোৰ ভিতৰত দুটা প্ৰেছাৰ আছে নাই সলিউটো আছে লিকুইডো আছে এতিয়া সেই সেলটোৱে পানী লবনে নলয় আমি মেজার কৰিব লাগিব কি মেজার কৰিবা তাৰ সলিউটছৰ পৰা তুমি ওয়াটাৰ কন্টেন্ট বা ওয়াটাৰ প্ৰেছাৰটো মাইনাস কৰি পেলাই যেটো ভ্যালু পোৱা হেতুক আমি কি বুলি কম ডিপিডি so you calculate the op of a cell you calculate the tp of a cell minus it down you get the dpd concentration of solutes ha it's only dekhat iman besi complicated lagise it is nothing but the concentration of the solutes eta cellor solute concentration study korilehe ami gom pam cell to pani absorb koribon nokore that's all water absorption keneke depend kore mane cell tur bhitorot solution eta ase solution tut pani besike ase ne solutes besike ase বুজি পাইছা so it can be either of solute besike থাকিব পাৰে solution besike থাকিব পাৰে যদি solutes besike ase hi pani besike absorb koribo balance koribole যদি solution besike ase hi pani komke absorb koribo কিমান solute আছে কারণ প্রেসার তো কোনে দিছে solutes এই দিছে so solutes যদি বেশি আছে প্রেসার তো বেশি আছে হেইটোৱে বস্তু তাৰ মানে সেলটোৰ ভিতৰত আলটিমেটলি দুইটা বস্তু আছে দুইটা বস্তু আমি ৰেসপেক্টিভলি ক্যালকুলেট কৰিলেহে গম পাম যে হি পানী লবনে নলয় ৰাইট clear so from here what you will remember this point right next is এই ফৰ্মুলাটোৰ ইউজ কৰি পেলাই what we have to see is we have to study three things. Question কি আহে, what is the DPD of a target cell, what is the DPD of a flaccid cell, and what is the DPD of a plasmolized cell, right? So cellor amar tinta condition thake, eta hol target, eta hol flaccid, eta hol plasmolized. Plasmolysis is something that we are going to write a little later, but as of now between the two words target and flaccid we have an idea. If the cell has enough water, that is called as target, it will absorb no longer any more water. If it is flaccid, he pani loye thakibo karon he dry cell ki koribo pani absorb koribo, that is considered as a flaccid. What is plasmolized? Plasmolized condition actually will not go by definition wise, okay? Definition to bele kotha, shrinking of the protoplasm away from the cell wall is called as plasmolized. Plasmolized ketia hoy jetia hypertonic solution or thoi dia cell to etc. As of now from DPD point of view, tinta condition, eta hol flaccid, eta hol target, or eta hol plasmolized. What is plasmolized? A condition that is in between target and flaccid. Targetত বহুত পানী আছে, ফ্লাচিডত অকমানো পানী নাই, প্লাজমোলাইজত অকমান পানী আছে, so it has a capacity to absorb water. বুজি পাইছা? Right? So target and flaccid আমি বুজি পালো, প্লাজমোলাইজ কন্ডিশনটো আমি কি বুলি কম, মাজৰ কন্ডিশন এটা, একেবাৰে পানী নাই বুলিও ক'ব নোৱাৰা, একেবাৰে পানী আছে বুলিও ক'ব নোৱাৰা। প্লাজমোলাইজ সেলৰ shrinking হয় নহয়? Plasmolysis মানে কি? Shrinking. Why does a cell shrink? Because the contents come out. Right? Contents মানে কি? We are talking about the liquid content. No? So hey, liquid to অকমান হে ওলাইছে, গুটেইখিনি যদি ওলাই যায়, the cell would no longer be called as a plasmolyzed, instead it would be called as কি? Flaccid. Contents খিনি ওলাই যাব ন? পুৰা dry, completely dry, এক ফুটো পানী নাই। কিন্তু প্লাজমোলাইজৰ মাজৰ কন্ডিশন ন, পানী আছে নে নাই? You cannot say no, নাই বুলিও ক'ব নোৱাৰা, আছে বুলিও ক'ব নোৱাৰা। You cannot say that a plasmolized cell is completely target. Neither you can say a plasmolized cell is completely flaccid. So it's a condition in between. Oh, heibla kori aso. Ite hegitai lagibo amak. Okay, this is over. For a split second, I keep Habilu person. Dosta bazar holoni barota kya wajise, because I always have a class till 10, right? Today I was thinking that barota kya wajise, dosta hai bachi bole isle. Okay. Now. DPD of a target cell. আমি সোয়া যিকোনো এটা সেলৰ either it is target or it is flaccid or it is plasmolized. If you want to take out the DPD, we have to go by the formula. যিকোনো সেলৰ ফৰ্মুলাটোৰে আমি ক্যালকুলেট কৰিব লাগিব। কিন্তু now we know target wordটো কোৱা লগে লগে তো আমি জানো যে সেলটো আৰু পানী নলয়। DPD এ কি কয় যে সেলটোৱে কিমান পানী ল'ব। কোনটো সেল? টাৰ্গেট সেল, তাৰ ইনাফ পানী আছে, এই পানী ল'ব নেকি? নলয়। So DPD কি হ'ব? Is the point clear? Now how did you deduct this zero? Obviously we can go by means of this formula. Right? Lahe lahe ami formula to deduct kori kori ultimately zero ulai dibo paru. And there is no point of going through that. What you need to remember, what is the DPD of a target cell? Since it's a target cell, pani to aru noloy. Jehetu pani e noloy, to DPD zero. DPD mane ki? DPD hol pani kiman lobo. Target cell e pani e noloy. Right? DPD of a flaccid cell, again by that same concept, eta cell e pani lobone noloy depends on what? The solute content. What is the solute content? Right? So DPD of a flaccid cell is equal to ki? OP. It depends on the osmotic pressure. Kiho karne? Since we are talking about this, DPD is equal to OP minus TP. In case of a flaccid cell, TP is equal to 0. Hoy na hoy? If you go by formula also, in case of a flaccid cell, eta flaccid cell ase tat ami DPD ulabo lage. DPD ami keneke ulam? The DPD could be denoted as this. Since we are talking about a flaccid cell is equal to OP minus 0 hobo nohoy. So equal to OP hobo nohoy. So what is the DPD of a flaccid cell? The DPD is equal to OP, or it is the amount of solute that is present in the cell that will tell us that as to what is the amount of water it will absorb. So in case of a flaccid cell, ami keneke likhim? In case of a turgid cell, is it clear? Kiba doubts ase niki? Next we have to talk about DPD in case of a plasmolized cell. Okay. In case of a plasmolized cell, ebar DPD to keneke calculate korim? Formula to prai calculate koribo laibo DPD equals to OP minus TP. So in case of a plasmolized cell, solutes OP to obviously thakiboi. As far as the eta cell plasmolized hoi joa mane tar pora water content khini komi jai na jai. Solute to ulai na jai, it is the water that comes out. So in case of a plasmolized cell, the amount of solute would always be there, but some amount of water will come out. So that some amount of water is always denoted by a negative sign. Whenever we are talking about pressure, pressure inside a cell can never be negative. Pressure keteba negative pressure hobo pare niki? Pressure is never negative. So TP in a normal cell, ami jodi TP buli ko, TP jodi 10 buli likho, it's always obviously it's understood that we are talking about plus 10. OP jodi ko ako plus a hobo, sorry, WP jodi ko ami ki hobo tate plus a hobo, right? Pressure can never be negative. But in case of a plasmolized cell, we have to denote a condition that is in between turgid and flaccid. Plasmolized cell ot okoman pani ulai jai. Hey, okoman bostutu has been denoted by a negative sign. So in case of that, if we start calculating here, DPD is equal to ki hobo? OP minus TP was the normal formula. Etia ki hobo? OP minus TP, which equals to negative to consider koriso karon pani ulai hibo. Pani to jodi ulai ahe tetal TP to komi jabo no. Oh, inside the cell jonto target pressure ase etu komi jabo kihor upor depend kore? Pani tur upor depend kore. So in case of a plasmolized cell, how will you denote DPD? DPD is equal to OP plus TP, right? So what you need to remember? This one and this one. Calculations, deductions, eku nahe. Direct question ahibo pare, what is the DPD of a plasmolized cell? The DPD of a plasmolized cell is OP plus TP. Normally, 18 conditions of questions ahe, but sometimes once the question has been asked, just to confused. Confusion okare about a question korise, what is the DPD of a normal cell? Now there is no cell causes a normal cell and an abnormal cell. Ekutu nai. Ami ghorot ki pori goiso, ami 18 condition he pori goiso, porikhat ki ahise? DPD of a normal cell. So what you will go through? Whenever you hear the word normal, you have to write this, the original formula. DPD of a normal cell is equal to OP minus TP. Teneke ami denote kori thoi diu, thik ase? Just etu ene confusion okare dise, baki eku problem hevi nai. So we have talked about DPD. What is DPD? the suction capacity of a cell or the water absorption capacity of a cell. It depends on what? It depends on the osmotic pressure and the target pressure. What are the conditions that we see? DPD in case of a turgid, flaccid and a plasmolysed cell. Our normal formula DPD equals to OP minus TP. And the most important line is, if you are talking about two cells with different DPD, water always moves from a cell with low DPD to a cell with higher DPD. सबसे बेसी সেইকাৰণে সেইটো পইণ্টে লিখিব ওলাইছে যে ইফ ইউ আৰ কম্পেয়াৰিং আ টাৰ্গেট ফ্লাচিড এণ্ড আ প্লাজমোলাইজ চেল সবতছে ৱাটাৰ কেপাচিটিটো কাৰ বেছি হ'ব ইটছ অলৱেজ দ্য প্লাজমোলাইজ চেল তাৰ কাৰণ অকণমান সলিউড আছে অকণমান লিকুইডো আছে ন নাথাকেই তাতে সেইটোৱে সেইকাৰণে সেইটোতো নহ'ব কাৰণ প্লাজমোলাইজ চেলততো অলৰেডি ৱাটাৰ আছেই ন অকণমান চ' তাৰ ৱাটাৰ এবজৰ্পশ্যনটো বেছি হ'ব So, highest water absorption plasmolysed cell. Karon another way to remember is plasmolysed cell to অকমান পানী absorb হলে ই টাৰ্জিড হৈ যাব ফ্লাচিড সেল to বহুত পানী absorb কৰিব লাগিব টাৰ্জিড হ'ব লাগিলে এটা সেলে সদায় টাৰ্জিড কন্ডিশনত থাকিব বিচাৰি it wants to remain swollen right so that it can maintain its shape and size properly if you are talking about a flaccid cell the amount of water absorption would be more plus the time taken would always be more কিন্তু প্লাজমোলাইজড সেলত টাইম টেকেন উড বি লেছ কাৰণ তাৰ অলৰেডি কণ্টেণ্টছ আছিলে অকণমানেই নাইকিয়া হৈছে ৰাইট নেক্সট এটা কুৱেশ্যন দিছিলে So, duta cell diya ase so the question that is asked is water will move from cell A to B and B to A. So, ami keneke ulam cell A DPD ulam cell B DPD ulam and then we will calculate. And DPD ulam will do easy OP TP diya ase. So, what would be the DPD of cell A? 5 and what would be the DPD of cell B? 3. So, ultimately ফ্লাচিডৰ পৰা প্লাজমোলাইজ হ'লেতো নাযায় ন ডাইৰেক্টলি কেনেকৈ ফ্লাচিডৰ পৰা ডাইৰেক্টলি প্লাজমোলাইজ যাব তেনেকৈ নাথাকিব নহয় প্লাজমোলাইজ চেল প্লাজমোলাইচিছ হ'ব লাগিলে এটা কণ্ডিশ্যন লাগিব তেতিয়াহে প্লাজমোলাইচিছ হ'ব নৰ্মেলি চেলছবিলাক টাৰ্জিড থাকিব নহ'লে ফ্লাচিড থাকিব ৰাইট প্লাজমোলাইজ চেল হ'ব লাগিলে তুমি তাক হাইপাৰটনিক সলিউশ্যনত হ'ব লাগিব ডেট ইজ আ স্পেচিয়েল কেছ Normal case of tomar either it's a turgid cell or it's a flaccid cell or turgidotkeও যদি বেছিকে ক'ব খোজা fully turgid মানে process of absorption turgid absorption বন্ধ কৰি দিলে fully turgid নাই তেনেকে নাথাকে okay cell A dpd is equal to 5 আৰু cell B dpd is equal to 3 so ক'ৰ পৰা ক'লে যাব P2A Totally right. কিয় সম্ভৱ নহয় তুমি এটা গ্ৰাম সিড বা বুট এটা শুকান বুটৰ কথা ভাবাচোন শুকান বুটটো কি হয় সেল ৰাইট হে বুটত পানী থাকে নেকি পুৰা সলিউট নাথাকে জানো সো দ্যাটস আ ফ্লাচিড সেল এনি সেল এটো কোৱা নাই যে তুমি লিভিং অৰ্গানিজম ভিতৰত এটা সেল আছে হে সেলটো পুৰা ফ্লাচিড হৈ গ'ল তেতিয়ালটো মৰিয়ে যাব we are not talking about that right so flaccid condition normal inside a body of an organism eta cell directly flaccid keneke hoy jabo hetu to hobo nware no hetu hobo nware kintu you take the examples maybe you take any dry cell the best example is a gram seed rajma hobo anything that absorbs water no rajma gram eblage ke pani thoi dile ekdom pura absorb tamai ki dry seed right over next so water movement er kotha koi asilo short distance movement diffusion osmosis over eta baki ase matro that is called as water potential gradient so we'll be doing that in the next class probably so next you should know something about plasmolysis so plasmolysis bostu to mane you want to write it down or just bujai dile hobo What is plasmolysis? The shrinking of a cell is called as plasmolysis. No, eta cell ase. Suppose plasmolysis of ki mono thake that we have a cell. Suppose, right? So cell to ki hoy the ei bhitor kini ami ki boli kom protoplasm. So the shrinking of the protoplasm from the cell wall is called as plasmolysis agote ki asile enka shrinkage nasile no agote pura complete asile eta cell eneke asile gradually ki hoy gol tar bhitor contents ki region to protoplasm hole etu separate hoy ahile shrinkage hoy gol ei process to ami ki boli kom plasmolysis ei bostu to ketia hobo jetia tumi ei cell to enuga eta solution ot thoba kenekwa hypertonic right so hypertonic solution ot ki hoy ketia ba plasmolysis hoy second point plasmolysis is a chief characteristic of a living cell if a cell is living ne dead ami keneke prove korim jedi living hoy hi plasmolysis hoboi lagibo every living cell undergoes plasmolysis third point if you are talking about plasmolysis two types of plasmolysis incipient plasmolysis aru permanent plasmolysis incipient mane starting of the plasmolysis process অকমান plasmolysis process to আৰম্ভ হৈছে ঠিক আছে হে আৰু that could be a temporary plasmolysis অকমান পানী উলাইছে তুমি যদি এই সেলটোক আকো hypotonic solution অত দি দিয়া deplasmolysis হৈ যাব and deplasmolysis হৈ গলে the cell will attain its normal shape and size right and there is a condition where it might lead to permanent plasmolysis if it goes to a permanent plasmolysis by evident plasmolysis tetia hole we know the cell will die Duta word incipient plasmolysis, evident plasmolysis. Incipient is the first starting point of plasmolysis which you cannot see with your naked eye. Cell to plasmolysis hoise nai tumi bhalke dekhai nopua symptoms ekue nai kintu okoman the process has started that is called as incipient. The next word is evident plasmolysis. What is evident? Evident mane ki it's totally evident tumi dekha paisa je cell to pura enekua hoi goise that is called as evident. Eta cell etur pra etu hobole okoman to homoy lagibo no so beginning to kami ki boli kom incipient if this is the condition you can see under the microscope this is called as evident clear nothing to remember question u aha nai incipient evident next temporary and permanent. Temporary janibo hole we have to talk something called as deplasmolysis also. Eta cell plasmolyze ketia hobo hypertonic solution. If that plasmolysed cell is taken and put into water by hypotonic solution, tetihole process to ki hobo deplasmolysis. Deplasmolysis hole ki hobo, the cell will gain its original shape and size. Right? Each and every plant ketiaba ki hoy plasmolysis hoy karon protekto cellor plasmolysis hoy no. So ultimately ki these are the points that you have to remember. Second, and the most important thing is the process of plasmolysis is used for economic importance also. Plasmolysis process to use kori pelai ami kihot kam koru je we take it for preservation of foodstuffs. Right? For example, if you are talking about pickles, you are talking about jams, jellies, etc. This could be stored for many years, right? Kiho karne? Because of the process of plasmolysis. If you are talking about pickles bar thik ase amor asar banala, am tukur ki korilo, the process we will do, and that pickle could be kept for many years. Why? Because we know plasmolysis helps in preservation. Plasmolysis mane ki? Shrinking of the cell. Shrinkage ba plasmolysis kar hoise. Ta mane etu hol amor টুকুৰাটো তুমি কি কৰিলা, you put it in salt, right? Saltত permanently থবা নেকি? নুঠুৱা। এটা সময়ৰ পিছত you take it out, whatever do you do and you put it in the jar, right? You can preserve this piece for many years. কিহৰ কাৰণে preserve কৰিব পাৰা? Why do you preserve, or what is the reason behind preservation? Cell to dead হৈ যাব। সেলটো যদি ডেড হৈ যায় তেতিয়া হি দেখোন আচাৰটো যিমান দিন যাব হি দেখোন কাঠৰ নিচিনা টান হৈ যাব। Right? If a living cell removes the water, he started removing the cell, as the time passes by, all the water content will come out. তেতিয়াহ'লে after 2 years, maybe after 3 years, আমটো আম হৈ নাথাকে আৰু শিল হৈ যাব দেখোন, পানী অকমানো নাই। Yes, who undergoes plasmolysis? It is not this cell that is undergoing plasmolysis. It is the microbes that is undergoing plasmolysis. Amtukur thola eneke jodi thoi dia tar upor ki hobo bacteria bilak hobo. Bacteria bilake jetia salt solution er upor ahibo tahandor ki hobo plasmolysis hoi jabo, they will die. If they will die, this will remain alive. Or this is preservation mane ki? Keeping away from germs, that is called as preservation, right? So preservation ami ki process apply koru? Plasmolysis. Who gets plasmolyzed? The microorganism gets plasmolyzed. As a result, the living cell remain good, right? Cell to নহয়। Cellটো ji hobo laga asil ami nimok panit thoi dite tar jikhini content ulabo lagisil ulai gol। Besi deri thoi dile ki hobo? Hi ekdom korkoria morin jabo। Gutekhini suck off হৈ যাব no? Hypertonic solution ot hoisa। তেলত দিলে হি সফট হৈ থাকিব ন, সেইটো যদি আমি মানে কন্টিনিউয়াসলি প্লাজমোলাইসিস কৰি থাকো মৰি থাকিব সেলটো। ফ্লাচিড সেললৈ কনভাৰ্ট হ'ব। প্ৰথমতে ফ্লাচিড পানীখিনি গুছি ফ্লাচিড হ'ব, তাৰপিছত মৰি থাকিব। তুমি তেতিয়া যদি ডিপ্লাজমোলাইসিস কৰি দিয়া হি আকৌ জিয়াই যাব। ফ্লাচিড সেললৈ কিয় প্লাজমোলাইসিস হৈ যাব? ফ্লাচিড সেল কিয় প্লাজমোলাইসিস হৈ যাব নোৱাৰে? ফ্লাচিড সেলটো প্লাজমোলাইসিস কেতিয়া হ'ব? যেতিয়া সেলটোত পানী থাকিব। ফ্লাচিড সেলত অকমানো পানী নাথাকে, প্লাজমোলাইসিস কেনেকৈ হ'ব? প্লাজমোলাইসিস প্ৰচেছটোত পানী লাগিব, সেলটোৰ ভিতৰত ওৱাটাৰ থাকিব লাগিব, তেতিয়াহে প্লাজমোলাইসিস হ'ব। ফ্লাচিড হৈ যাব। ফ্লাচিড হৈ পেলাই গ্ৰাজুৱেলি ইট উইল লিড টু দ্য ডেথ অফ আ সেল। তেনেকৈ তুমি প্ৰচেছটো চাব পাৰিবা, কিন্তু পানীত যদি তুমি থৈ দিলা, পানীত থৈ দিয়াৰ লগে লগে সি এবজৰ্ব কৰিব নকৰে, সি এবজৰ্ব কৰি সি টাৰ্জিট হৈ যাব নাযায়। আৰু দুদিন থৈ দিলেও সি কি ডাঙৰ হৈ গৈ থাকিব নেকি? নাযায় নহয়। এটা কেপাচিটিলৈকেহে ডাঙৰ হ'ব। কেতিয়ালৈকে ডাঙৰ হ'ব? যেতিয়ালৈকে টাৰ্জিট কণ্ডিশ্যন পায়, ৰাইট? চ' সেই তেনেকুৱা কনভাৰ্চন হ'ব পাৰে, কিন্তু সেইটো আকৌ ওলাই দিলা, আকৌ হাইপাৰটনিক সলিউশ্যনত থৈ দিলা, সি আকৌ ওলাই আহিব, তেতিয়া আৰু তুমি আৰু বুটটো খাব নোৱাৰিবা, আৰু সেইটো আৰু no longer edible হ'ব। Anyway, I think that's all for today. In the next class, we'll be discussing about water potential gradient. Okay, thank you.